You probably know about those popular chocolate-covered biscuit sticks called Pocky, whose fame has spread worldwide. But did you know that Glico, the company that makes them, was once involved in one of Japan's creepiest unsolved crime mysteries? This case caused widespread panic across Japan, especially among parents. And what makes it even creepier is that it remains unsolved to this day. Today, we're going to delve into the story known as the Glico Muradai case and discuss the perpetrator behind this reign of terror, the monster with 21 faces. Ezaki Glico, better known simply as Glico, is a confectionery company founded nearly a century ago in Osaka, Japan. By 1984, the company had grown substantially, becoming a market leader in the confectionery industry. Just 2 years earlier, the company's founder had retired and was succeeded by his son, 42-year-old Katsuhisa Ezaki. As the new CEO, Katsuhisa had many responsibilities, managing the company, caring for his young family, and upholding his father's legacy. Things were going remarkably well, but we wouldn't be discussing this story today if something terrible hadn't happened. The terrible event occurred on the night of March 18, 1984. At around 9 o'clock in the evening, 2 armed intruders broke into the Ezaki residence while Katsuhisa was taking a bath. The 2 men first came upon Mrs. Ezaki and one of the couple's 3 children. They were immediately tied up. Meanwhile, Katsuhisa, hearing the commotion, tried to hide in the bathroom, but his efforts were in vain. The intruders stormed in. The CEO was dragged, almost naked, out of the bathtub and shoved into a car. Mrs. Ezaki and the children soon managed to free themselves and call the police. But by then, the authorities could only wait. The next morning, a ransom demand was received. The kidnappers asked for 1 billion yen, approximately $4.5 million at the time, and 100 kilograms of gold bullion. These were exorbitant demands. Although Glico was a prosperous company, the ransom amounted to a significant portion of its assets. Moreover, the demand for such a large amount of gold was unusual and difficult to fulfill. However, as would become clear later, the kidnappers were not primarily interested in the ransom. Instead, they seemed intent on taunting both the corporation and the Japanese police. In the end, Katsuhisa himself made a daring escape, managing to free himself from his bindings. He was discovered on March 21st in Osaka Prefecture, wandering along the railroad tracks. He was wearing only his underwear and had rope remnants on his arms and legs. He was exhausted and bruised. When he regained his strength, Katsuhisa provided a vague description of his kidnappers, but his testimony did not significantly aid the police investigation. Just as the company was recovering from the kidnapping ordeal, Glico received letters from a group calling themselves the Monster with 21 Faces. They threatened to lace the company's candies with potassium cyanide if their demands for money were not met. The group demanded 60 million yen and instructed Glico to respond by placing a specific ad in the newspaper. The police advised Glico not to comply. On April 10th, several incidents occurred. A vehicle belonging to Glico was set on fire, and several facilities were targeted in arson attempts. At that point, the nightmare seemed never-ending, and the public was horrified by the news. Japan is considered one of the safest countries when it comes to crime, and such corporate attacks were virtually unheard of. To many, it seemed simply impossible. However, few realized that this was just the beginning of the madness, not only for Glico, but for Japan as a whole. In May 1984, both Glico and local newspapers received letters informing them that the blackmailers had placed poison candies on store shelves. These letters were signed by the Monster with 21 Faces. Many believed that the name was taken from the works of the Japanese mystery writer Edogawa Rampo, specifically his fictional villain, the Fiend with 20 Faces. The threat was too serious to ignore. Fearing mass poisoning, Glico began to recall its products from store shelves. As a result, panic spread throughout Japan. Consumers refused to buy their favorite candies, and the corporation, having lost over $20 million and suspending production, was on the verge of bankruptcy. Hundreds of workers were laid off. However, despite all this madness, no poison candies were ever found. Meanwhile, investigators tried unsuccessfully to uncover the culprits. The Monster with 21 Faces left extremely little evidence, but there was a breakthrough in the case. After Glico's products were recalled, a man was captured by a security camera placing something on a store shelf. It's hard to make out, but the man is wearing a business suit and glasses, along with a baseball cap of the Tokyo Yomiuri Giants. To this day, this remains the only known surveillance video associated with the case. However, the man in the video has never been identified. It should be noted that the blackmailers did not make any more financial demands to the company, but bombarded both the industrialists and the police with taunting letters. Here's an example of one of them, in which the kidnappers mock the fact that the police had not found a single piece of evidence. "You seem to be at a loss, so why not let us help you? We'll give you a clue. There's no friends or secret hiding place in the house. There's no fingerprints or clues in the getaway car. You're having a tough time, aren't you?" Other messages were filled with similar accusations. On June 26th, in the midst of chaos and confusion, something even more bizarre happened. Another letter arrived. With trembling hands, not expecting anything good, Katsuhisa opened the envelope. But there was only a short message saying that the mysterious monster with 21 faces was forgiving Glico. And indeed, from that moment, all horrors for the candy makers ended. But they began for another giant of Japan's food industry. By this time, the monster with 21 faces was known throughout the land of the rising sun, when, on June 28th, Fujita Masayuki, president of another industrial giant, Morinaga and Company, specializing in confectionery, received a letter demanding payment of 50 million yen. It was no joke. He was especially frightened by the extortionists' promises to make the corporation experience what Glico had. This time, the monster wasn't bluffing. Several packages of Morinaga products were found with additional labels that were signed by the monster. On them it said, "Danger, contains poison." And indeed, upon examination, it was found that the products contained cyanide. Japanese police, already having bitter experience from numerous unsuccessful attempts to catch the monster, had no illusions and prepared thoroughly for the operation. But again, without success. The extortionists put forward several conditions for the transfer of money. First, it had to be done by the owner of the corporation. Second, the transfer was to be carried out in a very specific way. A railroad ticket was included with the instructions. The president had to board a certain train to the place indicated by the criminals and throw the bag with the money out of the window when he saw a white flag hung on one of the buildings along the way. It's clear that in this train, in addition to the head of Morinaga, sat a whole squad of police officers, but the operation failed again. It was a very foggy day, and nothing could be seen outside the train window beyond a few meters. If there was a flag displayed, they didn't see it. However, plainclothes agents noticed a man who was in the same carriage as the president, and was clearly watching both him and the policeman. He was then characterized as the fox-eyed man, for his narrow eyes and elongated face, resembling a fox's face. He was wearing a light-colored suit and glasses. He rode with the president to the final station, made sure he took a return ticket, and then stopped following him. He stepped out onto the platform and deftly evaded pursuit. And with him, the only hope of learning anything about the monster with 21 faces vanished. On July 6th, the extortionists again contacted Fujita, called him, and scheduled another meeting. The president obediently went to the restaurant named by the criminals to hand over the money, but there he received another phone call, and a taped voice of a woman or child directed him to another location. When the police arrived there, they found only an empty tin can covered with a napkin. The criminals did not need money again. They were openly mocking the authorities. Interestingly, one of the agents noticed the same fox-eyed man in a car near the handover site. All the police rushed after him, but the man, showing good skills, escaped from the police once again. Yamamoto, the police officer responsible for catching the criminals, could not bear the shame and committed suicide. A few days later, the mysterious monster with 21 faces made one last appearance. The letter said the following: "Yamamoto died like a man, so we decide to give our condolences. We have no grudge against officers, but what fools the police are. So we decide to forget about torturing food-making companies. If anyone blackmails any of the food-making companies, it is not us, but someone copying us. We are bad guys. That means we've got more to do other than bullying companies. It's fun to lead a bad man's life." After this message, no one ever heard anything more about the monster with 21 faces. But even so, people are still left without answers. There isn't even a motive for the perpetrators, why all of this happened, and who was behind it. Who was this fox-eyed man? And was he really captured by the camera in that store? Over the course of the Glico Muradai investigation, numerous theories emerged, ranging from a disgruntled former company employee to Japanese Yakuza groups. But the monster's true motives are still unknown. Putting it all together, it looks like the monster with 21 faces didn't really want to harm anyone or even get money from their actions. Why put stickers on dangerous goods warning of poison? Why not actually collect money from the corporations? Why leave Glico's CEO unattended, allowing him to escape? We don't know, but we do know that whoever the monster with 21 faces is, or was, everything seemed aimed at the police to emphasize their incompetence, a criticism that continues to this day. As mentioned earlier, it's very likely that the monster got his name from the novel The Fiend with 20 Faces by Edogawa Rampo. And it's not just the name. The Fiend is a master of disguise, someone who can hide in plain sight and is known for laughing in the face of the police. He's the kind of criminal that the police can never catch, even with the help of a top-notch detective. In the end, we never find out what the monster really wanted. Was it to show up the Japanese police, or was it a real-life detective game played out on a national stage? The unsettling thought is that the monster with 21 faces may still be alive today, and like the fiend from the novel, the monster remains invisible. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think of the video. Good luck.